Hello, welcome to the Beer Garden. I am Jason Hoke. That is Brandon Comstock, and this is the Beer Garden, the Gearheads edition of the Beer Garden.
Don't say
Uh,
that.
Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm also doing well.
Good. I'm a little bit on edge today. Over the weekend, I found out that Michelle's grandmother listens to the show. Hello, Nanny. And I'm so worried about saying the wrong thing now.
Yeah.
Worried about swearing or something.
I'm
But-
sure Nanny will understand. Hi, Nanny. By the way, thank you for listening.
Yeah, she's very cool.
Awesome. I'm just finishing up my pregame beverage here, but what are you drinking?
Well, I have two different kinds today. I didn't rush my first one, as you may have. I'm having the Project 9 Pilsner again from Fernie Brewing. Had one of those left in the fridge. Very good. Again, Fernie's a great ski town just west of Calgary. And then I'll introduce the other one later when I get to it.
Awesome. I'm going to give a just tip of the hat to my pregame beverage. This is the Shiner Holiday Cheer. And it was pretty tasty. It is an ale brewed with peaches and pecans or pecans, depending on where you're from.
I think it's pecans here in Canada, but I'm actually not that sure.
My actual beer that I'll be drinking, though, this is going to be a mouthful. This is from Copper Kettle Brewing in Denver, and it is the Mocha Snowed In, which is an oatmeal stout aged in bourbon barrels with coffee and chocolate.
Like Snowden, like Edward?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, snowed in. I see. I see. That we found Snowden.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. So, today we are going to talk about the importance of standardizing your equipment fleet and many, many things that go along with that. So, I've been through quite a lot with this and had a lot of conversations about it over the years. And there's a lot of different stages you go through at the different sizes of business. I think I'll say that it's a lot more fun when you're a smaller company and you can just, it's like you and a few buddies and you can just buy whichever pieces of equipment you want and whatever. When you get bigger, everything gets standardized and it's kind of all the same, or it should be, if you want to make money. So some of the things that I think tend to happen, and the reason that we're talking about this is, contractors like to try out new pieces of equipment, and as they should, but then you end up with multiple makes and models of equipment. You have 3 different brands of leaf blower and all these different sizes and brands of, zero turns and trucks and whatever it may be, which makes things like keeping parts on hand, training your staff, other issues like, which causes some complexities with that. And then other issues like you start missing out on things like fleet purchasing. Like if you purchase X number of one brand of thing, you'll often get into fleet programs. Those are just some of the issues that come with it. And then there's always questions around, how do I get this stuff? Should I buy it all cash if I have the cash? Should I lease it? Should I rent it? Should I even buy this thing? Should I rent it instead? Should I do it new or used? And then, just as you're growing in fleet size, it's not very difficult when you only have, less than 10 pieces of equipment. But once you have multiple crews, your fleet grows, you don't know how to keep track of all the repairs and maintenance and, oil changes and all those things. So we'll talk about some tools for that today. And then I think what I see is contractors tend to make decisions that actually slow down crews without really considering the labor implications. You're just hauling around all these different pieces of equipment and not realizing that doing so might be hurting productivity. So yeah, today we'll get to talk about when to buy things and kind of how to, get into the new and used discussion, leasing and purchasing discussion, what to buy, like what brands to buy, and how to choose those kind of things in your market. And then certainly the importance of standardization, which is one of my favorite parts. So are you excited, Jason?
I'm very excited. I'm excited to debate some equipment choices with you. Although that will not be the meat of our conversation, I'm sure it will come up.
We'll see. Jason's very passionate.
Before we get into this, I'll just share one of my favorite memories with you, which is when we both went down to GIE, which is now called Equip Expo in Louisville. And Louisville. Yeah,
the
you have to say
taxi driver taught us you have to say it like it's you have marbles in your mouth. Louisville.
That's right, Louisville. But that was
still wrong.
That was like
worse.
Disney World for landscapers. Like, it was just the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's just this massive expo with every type of equipment you could possibly imagine, and the opportunity to like demo it. I seem to remember Brandon like driving straight through some bales of hay and
all I was thinking is like, I always, from Canada, I don't know, I always thought America was like the land of lawsuits and everybody suing each other for stuff.
Oh, it is.
I got down there and there's lawnmowers and bobcats and excavators, and it's like no supervision. This like 14-year-old kid runs up, just gets on a 0-turn mower, smashes it through some bales of hay. I'm like, where's this kid's parents and where's the waivers? And
yeah,
it was crazy.
I definitely had that same thought walking in, and like, is this allowed? Are we allowed to do this?
Yeah, I've wanted to go back ever since.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's stop.
Remember we tried that mint julep? That was a big thing down there. Oh, mint julep.
Well, it wasn't
Maker's Mark. Oh,
that's what it was. Like, mint juleps are an excellent cocktail, but the pre-mixed mint julep Maker's Mark, it was just like flavored whiskey. I actually think that was not ours. It was it belonged
just in the
to the Airbnb host, and we helped ourselves. But it was terrible. It was like drinking mint syrup with the whiskey aftertaste. Yeah, it's not great. All right. On that note, let's dive right into it, and let's talk when to buy. So you kind of alluded to this, but this is one that comes up all the time. I think regardless of business size, like, I've talked to many well-established businesses that are still kind of going back and forth on like, should I purchase? Should I rent? Like, what is that tipping point for purchase versus rent? So let's start there, like that side of it. Do you have like a hard and fast rule in your business at LBN about like that kind of tipping point from renting to purchasing?
We don't have a firm like system to come to an answer, like an equation. But basically, if it's only going to be used less than a month total in the year, then we would often look at just renting it. And if it's, readily available for rent, I suppose. So there's, that's kind of an obvious thing. If the maintenance is really expensive, so if let's say it's a really specialized piece of equipment, even if we use it a little bit more than that, we may still rent it because maybe we don't have, we don't want to keep the parts in stock for this thing, or we don't want to worry about repairs and maintenance. When we consider insuring the thing, storing it, worrying about theft, all of those things year round, those are hard things, I guess, to calculate. Some of them are like peace of mind type things, like worrying about something getting stolen. But the space it takes up in your yard or shop, all of those kind of things come into mind when I'm considering it. So if we only need one of something, it's like, I don't know. For example, we're talking about purchasing a stump grinder right now. we use stump grinders kind of randomly through the summer season, and it'll be a total of, I don't know, 3 weeks of use that it actually gets. But I don't know, they're kind of annoying. You have to replace the teeth on them, or I don't know if you can sharpen them or whatever. But we would only have one of them, and it's just going to be stored and taking up space the majority of the time. So I would prefer to batch all the production, like sell a bunch of jobs, try to push them all into a 2 or 3 week period, rent one, do all the jobs, and give the thing back and never worry about it again. In that case, certainly larger equipment, it really comes into play on excavators or those types of things. On the odd time we would need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the same?
Yeah, very similar. I would just say, similar to you, we don't have a hard and fast rule, but there are ways, as you just alluded to do a cost analysis here, where you're just looking at, like, on average, how much do you need to use it a year, especially if you're smart with it. Like, batching jobs is a really good example of that. Like, there's a big difference between renting a stump grinder like 10 different times throughout the year, for a week at a time, versus just lumping all your jobs together and renting it once for 10 weeks, or likely less, because you can knock them out quicker when they're all lumped together. So
Yeah.
regardless, though, you can do a cost analysis where you're evaluating, how much you're going to spend on this, renting it over the course of a year, say, versus the cost of owning it. But the important part is all the things that you just said there. I think that's something that a lot of people leave out, is like, oh yeah, I have to insure this thing. What's that going to cost? What's the maintenance going to cost on it? Are there additional storage costs for it? Like, am I going to be able to store it on site or not? So just making sure that you're thinking about all of the things that actually go into owning that piece of equipment. And once you've done that cost analysis, then you can weigh the kind of peace of mind items, like you mentioned. Like, is this something I want to own? Is it something that, like, one for me is, like, I have a hard time, unless that piece of equipment really adds a lot of value and efficiency and things like that. I have a hard time buying equipment that's very seasonal, that's just going to sit for a lot of the year. And it's less about, like, the cost for me. It's like, it's a feeling thing for me. Like, I hate seeing equipment that just sits in the shop 6, 7, 8 months out of the year. It really bothers
Right.
me. That being said, we have some equipment like that, but it just adds so much value and so much efficiency that it's hard not to own it, right?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the time people that do this wrong are getting caught up just wanting to own something. Like they
Yeah.
get like they want more yellow equipment out in the yard because it's a cool new excavator, and they tell themselves they'll sell the work to keep it busy. Like that doesn't even, it doesn't really make that much sense. So it's not a tough thing to figure out. You can certainly calculate some numbers to come to a conclusion, but I think the main lesson here is to just not go buy the cool excavator just so you can say you have an excavator now. Like, go sell the work. Maybe you do it at a bit of a higher cost for the first little while, because you're renting, and then someday it might make sense for you to purchase one. If it doesn't work out and you're renting, no big deal.
Yeah.
If you've just spent $100,000 on an excavator or something, then now you're kind of up the creek. So
yeah, renting gives you an opportunity to kind of try out a few different brands too, and find out what you like and what you don't like about certain pieces of equipment. So I remember, this happens to everyone too. I was kind of being facetious at the beginning about the gearheads episode for that reason. Like, this is a very common problem. Like, it's just part of our industry. They're fun toys when you're into the trade, and you they're cool. Equipment's very cool. But, like, this happens to so many people at so many different business sizes. I remember actually being
we're all just like kids in a sandbox, and
Totally.
now we're armed with credit.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, new or used? First of all, before we get into like kind of the why behind new or used, do you have a kind of best practice within your company? Do you typically buy new? Do you typically buy used, or a blend of both?
It depends on what we're talking about. So for equipment, it's almost always new,
Hmm.
and that does change a bit on the size of your company. Like it has changed through the history of our company. So um, let's talk about like small equipment, like so two-stroke equipment, line trimmers, hedge trimmers, backpack blowers, these types of things that are under, they're like $500 to $700 or something. So when we were smaller and I had more time as well, I would just scour marketplace for deals, and I only needed to buy one more line trimmer for the season or whatever it might be. So you have time to look for deals, and you have time to assess the equipment yourself, and it just makes sense. Um, you also don't have purchasing power because you're not buying in bulk. So today, if I buy six or seven, whatever it is, steel backpack blowers, the purchase price goes down from something like 600 and I'm Canadian, by the way, so Canadian dollars, 670 or $80 for a BR 600, down to like 550 or something like that, right? So you save 120 bucks per unit, and that only opens up once you have that bulk purchasing ability. So at some point you start like batching your purchases and doing it a lot more intentionally, and then the new price comes a lot closer to the used price that everybody out there that's buying one at a time is paying. So yeah, that's kind of the story with I guess equipment in general. It's usually new these days, and then you start to get really good at trying to figure out how to get really good at disposing of and selling the equipment, at a specific time, which we'll get into a bit later. Trucks, I like to have a mixed fleet. So some of them are on lease, some of them are purchased. Maybe they're purchased after the lease. We buy them out. A lot of our trucks are older right now. A lot of our maintenance crew trucks, so they're 100,000 kilometers to 200,000 kilometers kind of thing.
Hmm. Cool.
Yeah, you can convert that into miles yourself.
Nope. Awesome. Yeah, we're very similar. We're all new when it comes to equipment these days. It was different in the early days, similar to what you said. With our vehicles, though, we do buy all new currently. We don't really have a blend. We buy new, and we usually finance them. I don't buy cash out. I very rarely buy cash outright. Like it depends on the purchase size, obviously, like you were saying. But I typically like to keep my cash working for me in the business, and so I tend to finance things. Obviously, you have that interest cost that adds to it, but it's more of a cash flow thing for me than like a total dollar spent, is how I look at it.
And it's really more of an account. It's a lot, well, not completely, but a lot of it is an accountant question, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So certainly start speaking with an accountant, and lease payments you can write off 100% of. I'm not an accountant at all, by the way, but so don't take my advice without double checking it. But you can write off 100% of lease payments, but you can't write off 100% of a purchase upfront. You have to depreciate it over time. So there is advantages of both, and yeah, you just kind of have to work it into an overall plan. I think we'll eventually, if let us know if you want to hear it, but we'll do a full sidecar episode just about leasing and versus purchasing versus financing.
Right.
And we'll probably bring a CA on that I know quite well.
Hi, Michelle. Awesome. Anything else to add regarding new versus used, or leasing versus purchase?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Awesome. Let's talk what to buy. So really, like, we're not going to probably get too much into like brands and stuff here, because Brandon and I can go back and forth on that all night. We'll talk about it a little bit maybe, but more what we're talking about is like how to choose what to buy for you, right? Like we're not going to tell you which brand's going to work best for you, but how to choose the things to consider when determining what brand, what type of equipment, all those different things. So one of the first things I'll just get us kicked off here that comes to mind is just it's one of the reasons why we're not going to tell you what brand to buy, and this is oftentimes why Brandon and I disagree on certain pieces of equipment. It's just very simply where you're located. The dealer support is going to be a lot different for one brand versus the next brand depending on where you're geographically located and what dealers and vendors you have in your area. So that's always a very, very important part to look up before you just go out and buy something. And then obviously there's price. That's like one of the main things to take into consideration for what you're getting, but it's not the only thing. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But not only your price, but like what is the resale value going to be on that piece of equipment? That's why I say price is not the only thing. Oftentimes, I think people get stuck into kind of comparing that initial purchase price.
Yeah.
And they forget to calculate like how well it holds its value, what the resale value is going to be, all those sorts of things.
Yeah. So on like dealer support's a pretty obvious one. It's like you said, just a really good um, dealer that'll hopefully prioritize your repairs. Maybe you need mobile mechanics and so on and so forth. The price thing, I think that people think about this the wrong way. They just look at the upfront price tag and they don't consider like you should be looking at the cost per hour or the cost per kilometer. So equipment's usually by the hour, not the upfront cost. And that's exactly what you're saying. So the thing costs me, a $15,000 zero turn. After, if I use it for 3 years, I'm going to use it for this many hours. 250 hours a season. It's going to have 750. What will it sell for at the end of that? How much maintenance? How much, repair costs and so on are going to go into that, and then divide that into the 750 hours, fuel cost as well, and insurance and all those things. Divide it into the cost per hour. How does that compare to the cheaper one that might be $12,000, right? If you get into fleet pricing, that's really where you get some deals too. So if you're buying 3 of those or 5 of those, whatever the fleet programs are for that brand, that's really something to ask about. Even if you're only buying one today, right? Like if you're smaller and you're only buying one of these things, ask, say, how do I eventually get into fleet pricing? Like if I was buying 3 of these or 10 of these, or what's the deal? And often they're like, tiered programs, and Toro's got all this confusing point systems and all this crap. But yeah, you're gonna get sued by Toro now. Defacing their fleet program.
Yeah, there goes that
I run
sponsor.
Xmark, by the way. But anyway, it's confusing, damn it. So considering all those things is really important. Yeah, how easy they are to maintain and repair in-house. So for example, for the people that know their mowers out there, Walker mowers are like sweet. Like they provide the best cut, I would say. Just beautiful. They stripe so nice. They have way more moving parts though. Like they put it in that weird turtle shell looking hopper behind the driver. They've got way more parts and belts and all these things on them, right? All these different systems, and they're just naturally going to break down more and be harder to repair than some hefty John Deere Exmark zero turn that's built to be banged into things a little bit, right? So just considering, are my maintenance costs going to be higher on this, and maybe that's worth it to you, depending on your customers and stuff. Yeah. What else? So we've got, what do you got, Jason?
Yeah, I think beyond just choosing the brand, it's choosing the right piece of equipment, right? So maybe you've settled on a brand. You've decided that X mark is not the way to go and that you're going to go with right instead. And now you're looking at all these different right standards, right? And you've got the 32-inch standard, you've got the 48-inch standard, the 52-inch standard, for example. This is like a very easy place to make mistakes, in my opinion. And I say that from experience. We we used to run, a single mow crew. For a while there, we had a mow crew running with a 52-inch stander, a 48-inch stander, and a 32-inch stander, and then a couple 21-inch Hondas as well. And the problem with that is, like, I understand the mindset there. You're thinking like, well, the larger the deck, the more efficient the crew is going to be there. So they have a handful of properties that we can max them out and they can use this 52-inch mower. But that 52-inch mower won't work in this area, so we need a 48-inch mower. Then we can't get either of those through the gate, so now we got to get a 32-inch mower, and then we've got a handful of customers that we really like. Even pulling a 32-inch stander is just too much, so we need to have a 21-inch mower.
Sure.
And ultimately, you end up with a bunch of equipment sitting, not getting used, which, like, that's a big pain point for me. I hate seeing equipment like sit during the day. I want to see it like being utilized as much as humanly possible, so that we're getting the value out of it. But also, you're slowing down the efficiency of your crew. Like, your crew's got to, like, it's really hard to make a trailer or a truck setup that works for that many different types of mowers all going out at once, for example. So you're like having to pull out multiple mowers, just to get to the one that you need. That's, added time on every single job, not to mention added opportunity for things to get messed up when someone's pulling it on and off the trailer. There's a
You need a
lot of
bigger trailer, a bigger truck that's now harder to park.
right. Yeah.
It's often, people just, I think it's an amateur way to think, to just always try to get the biggest mower onto the property and think it's going to save you that much time. It's not as drastic as you typically think. Maybe if it's a big soccer field or some big wide open municipal property, but generally on residential, multifamily residential, commercial, bigger is not always that much faster.
Right.
And if you actually calculate it out, and you look at how many passes it's going to take to go down that thing, it's negligible, and it's often not worth hauling another piece of equipment around to do that. The other thing it really screws with is the crews. Like, the crews mentality is in my experience almost always going to be, I want the biggest one, right? It's the funnest to run. Of course you do. It has more cup holders, more features, whatever. And so naturally, they're just going to hop on the biggest machine, and then, oh, now I can't get through the gate. I got to walk back to the truck and get the 48 or whatever. So anyway, our trucks, we own two types of mowers. We have Honda 21s and we have 48-inch walk behinds. That's it. And we have some huge properties. We have a couple properties where it would be really nice to have like a 60-inch deck, right?
Yeah.
But it's not worth owning it and having all the parts and having all the training and having the ability to, haul the thing around and all of that. It just doesn't make sense. So really think that through. And I see so many companies doing that wrong.
Yep. So like I said, it's a lesson we learned the hard way. We now run only 32-inch right standers and 21-inch Hondas, Honda walk behinds. We still have.
May they rest in peace. Honda's not making those suckers anymore.
I know. I was able to buy like 3 at the beginning of this year when I found a vendor who had them.
Jason's getting into the fleet pricing.
Yeah. But We do still have some 48s and 52s that are relics now from
Yeah,
our days of not buying standardized, but they serve as like backup mowers or field like brush mowers. Essentially, we'll use them as like brush mowers now. But
cool.
yeah,
Nice.
cool.
Well, do you want to get into talking about standardization and just a little bit? I mean, we touched on it, but why it's so important.
Yeah, yeah. This is something I think, as you kind of alluded to at the top, like it starts to come, or it should start to come a bit more naturally the larger you get. Obviously, when you're a smaller company, like you have the advantage of like only needing one mower or a couple types of mowers, and say you might try a couple different brands, and that's the time you should try all that, right? Like that's when you're kind of figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. As you get, a bit larger, um, it's really important to have standardized pieces of equipment kind of across the board as much as you possibly can, for a few different reasons. First of all, um, training, like training your staff. This is one I think that people don't think about as much, but it's like when you have 10 different types of, I don't know, mowers. We keep using the example of mowers, but you have 10 different types of mowers. Like they all have their nuances and how they, like, just even down to how you start them, right? Like they all start a
Sure.
little differently. You got to change the blades
The
differently.
controls are
Yeah.
X marks have the ECS controls, which are
Oh, yeah.
completely backwards to right or Toro or whatever. That'll just cause people to drive those things into cars and stuff. It's so confusing. It's the
It's
best
true.
control system, but it's really you got to get some expertise on it.
Funny story, actually. I'm not ever on the tools anymore.
That's
But
not funny.
but recently I went out on the tools for a snowstorm with a brand new SSV that I just bought, and had Jonathan was with me. And I was all excited showing off my new SSV, and I'm so used to the right stander controls for a mower, and the SSV is slightly different, though it's very similar but slightly different. And when I got into the vehicle and went to drive it out of the ramp rack in the truck, I accidentally reversed it and like had a moment and just smashed one of my Toro snow blowers behind me.
Well,
And like and pinned myself also. And Jonathan's watching this whole thing, is quite embarrassing. So that just comes from not being on the tools anymore. But also,
none of the crew members saw you.
no,
Oh,
thank
thank
God.
God. Jesus.
Yeah,
I hope they're listening to this. They'll
yeah.
they'll mock you.
They-
Yeah. Yeah. Everything down to like trucks, even trucks, especially, right? Like if
yeah.
you have 5 trucks and one of them's a diesel, you're just asking somebody to put gas in that thing. Like how they start it. Oh, it's getting cold. I have to plug that one in at night. Um, it's just more grief. That's all it is, you
Yeah.
know? So just do yourself a favor. Um, Parts and repair, that's another big one, especially once as you get bigger and bigger, because you want to keep certain parts on hand. So, if you have 20 mowers in your fleet and you have 3 or 4 different ones, now you have you have you have to have different shelves and stuff just for all the different air filters and oil filters and all the crap that breaks on them. So it's really helpful to just have one type for that reason as well. Easier to repair, so your crews might learn how to repair certain things in the field, or your mechanic, or yourself. Um, Another one is the fleet purchasing. So if you're buying 3 different brands of something, it's going to take 3 times as long to get up to a fleet level of purchasing power. So again, every brand seems to have a different bar for that, but you can save a lot of money, like 15-20% on off the retail price on some of these things when you buy them through a fleet program. Maybe partner up with some guys in town. But yeah, so that's another good reason. And then touched on earlier, but just keeping, imagine just like a fleet of trucks. You've got 25-30 trucks. All of them are lined up. They're all the same model. They all have the same equipment loaded into them, the same decals, same ramps, same everything. It looks really good too. and then it's like you can buy trucks that are compact, have the same tie down points, have everything exactly identical, and it's so much faster to hire and onboard staff and all those things.
Couple other things with that. It becomes easier in like emergency situations to flip equipment around if you need to. Like
Emergency mowing situations.
yeah. No, I mean like a truck goes down, right? Like Mo Crew One's truck goes down. It's very easy to pull maintenance crew 2 who's not working today, their truck in and have it fill
Sure.
in for Mo Truck 1 because it's the exact same. It's the same setup. Everything's the same. It's going to have the same hook points. Like the crew doesn't need to like worry about learning a whole new truck and how are they going to load this? Oh, we got to like hook this trailer up. Like it's just all the same. So it makes it much easier. And then I had another point there that I was really looking forward to making, and it just left me. It's just gone.
Well, let me jump in.
Okay.
While you think of it. So we found, so at the start, going back to trucks, at the start, we needed, our trucks to be able to kind of do everything because we only had 2 or 3, right? So sometimes I need this thing to pull a skid steer. Sometimes I need it to just haul some mowers around. And so naturally, if I need it to pull a skid steer, I need a 1-ton for like 10% of the days of the year, and then the rest of the days a half ton would do. So these are the reasons why, it's often more expensive to run a smaller business than a larger business. As you get larger, as soon as you have, 35, 40 hours a week of work for a crew, you can break off and have just a maintenance truck. And then you can standardize what a maintenance truck is, and that could just be a half ton. So you start to really save a lot. Your fuel bill, when your fuel bill gets to be, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you really start noticing it. And, you'll be happy when you're standardizing your equipment and your trucks to just be more fuel efficient as well. It has a huge effect.
I remember what my point was now. Similarly, it kind of comes down to like budgeting as well. It becomes way easier to budget and to plan for future growth when you've standardized everything because it's just very simple. Like I know that our truck all in with the plow, with the ramp rack, like it's the same every time. So I'm going to go finance that thing for 65 grand. Like that's what it's going to be for everything. And I just know like very easy to start to project out. You don't have to like have these complex spreadsheets and everything else. It's like, I know this is what it costs to get a new crew up and running. And that's it.
Yeah. Just like a pro tip, I guess, if you're leasing a new truck, vehicles are pretty good collateral for, a bank or whoever's financing you, versus like mowers and smaller stuff. So you'll often get better rates when you finance or lease vehicles than you will on equipment. And so you can often wrap in the equipment or the upfitting as it's called into a truck lease. So you say, I want to lease a truck. Here's the cost of the truck, the cost of the decals, the cost of the snowplow, the sander, the headache rack, the suspension upgrades, the mud flaps, the bed liner, all of those things that you would not normally be able to wrap, you'd not normally be able to like lease mud flaps. you can wrap all of those in with one deal and you get a lower interest rate because, the whole vehicle is there as collateral. So, yeah.
Very good point. Yeah, our truck guy knows our entire setup now because he's had to finance it so many times. It's like, all right, and you want the Boss plow and you want the ramp rack and
totally. Yeah, you're exactly right. Like you get to the point where you have like a kit, right? You just say, I need a manager truck. Okay, I know that is an F-150 super cab with a 3.5 liter EcoBoost.
Yep.
And this exact setup, this decal package, oh, hey, I need a maintenance truck. Cool. That's this. And yeah, you know, that's kind of when you're at like maybe the 20 plus truck point. There's not a rule about it, but you know, when you're smaller, you're searching marketplace. When you're bigger, it's you just kind of make these other connections.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. You want to do a speed round?
You know I do.
All right. You're going to go first this time. I'm going to ask you the questions.
Okay.
All right. Speed round. Here we go. In regards to standardizing equipment or just equipment in general, what's the best resource or content on this topic?
I think besides this podcast that we just made, I would say I think just getting to use a software platform. We use MTC Pro Web or something like that. It's called.
Yep.
So once you start using that, you just start filling in the blanks. Now you're kind of off to the races with standardizing. So
cool. What is the best advice you've received or biggest win you've had?
Two, I think. So I don't know if you were with me for this. You were with me at GIE or Equip Expo, but one of the talks, like always go to these side room conference, whatever talks. There was like someone, I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but there was someone there speaking from a huge landscape company, like multiple states, many branches, and he was their fleet manager. And he gave a talk specifically on this, like we're talking today. And it just blew my mind. I was like really, really impressed. And it really inspired me to go and make some changes when I got home. And then the second one would just be, you know, the shop foreman or your shop manager. That's been one of the most difficult roles for me to fill over the years. And today we have Ken, and Ken is incredible mechanic. He can do hydraulic work, automotive work, you know, basic things, of course, as well, and willing to do mobile stuff, go out, you know, in the winter, and it's like minus 40 Fahrenheit or Celsius. Those are the same at that temperature. You know, crawl under a snow machine and fix the thing. And so once you have someone that's organized and has a diverse mechanic skill set, that's incredible. And yeah, Ken's an incredible manager for that. So finding that person was the biggest win, I would say, I've had.
Awesome. What's the biggest blunder either you've made or you've seen others make in regards to this topic?
At the start, it wasn't standardizing things. So just having lots of different types of equipment. And then as we grew, you know, this crew wants Echo, this crew wants steel. And I was like, whatever, they're the same price. And I didn't think about it. That totally screwed me eventually because I had so many different things and I couldn't keep track of things. I didn't know how many of each that I owned. Things would get stolen and so on. I put a lot of work into building out our software, which MTC is a good one. I'm sure there's others out there, but not auditing that process over the years was a huge mistake. Like we had different people running the software and you know, inspections not getting done. So then, you know, oil changes aren't getting done and repairs aren't getting done. You get catastrophic failures in, you know, trucks and wheel loaders and all kinds of things when that happens. And then it's really hard to get it back on track. So I think not auditing our process regularly and not holding the line with staff. Like it's annoying to have to put in a repair request and fill out the form. Like I get that, but it's when you're a maintenance company, equipment is, you know, you have so many small pieces of equipment, you know, we have like 50 leaf blowers or something. It's, you know, it's crazy to keep track of all the minutia that goes with it. So I'd say not auditing the process is the dumbest thing that I've done over the years.
Cool. And then special for this particular speed round, I want you to give me, you can give me either just a brand or like a specific model if you like. We're just going to go with your favorite equipment for each of these categories, or maybe not favorite, but like your go-to um,
Sure.
for your business. So truck.
F-150 super cab with a 8-foot box and 5-liter V8, no EcoBoost.
Nice. Mower.
I've had a couple of these screw me lately, but 48-inch Exmark Turf Tracer walk behinds.
Okay. Trimmers and blowers.
Trimmers, the cheapest Echo trimmer out there, the SRM 225. And yeah, just kind of run them for 2 seasons and flip them. They're nice and light. They do the job.
Nice. Blowers.
Blowers, Steel BR 600s.
Nice. All right. Favorite piece of snow equipment. You have to choose one.
Can I separate by like sidewalks? And that's hard. Sidewalks and roads.
Sure, I'll allow it, I guess.
So, new favorite, Boss SR mags for sidewalks. They're probably on par, and Ventrac might be better. Ventrac SSVs. We have better dealer support for Boss, so
Gotcha.
That's the only reason that's kind of clear. But Ventrac SSVs are pretty badass too. And then for roadways, the John Deere 244 loaders. We do condo complexes, so small wheel loaders. They're the most maneuverable. They have weird rear wheel steer thing. And then the best snowplow in the world, the Metal Plus Live Edge snowplow, made in Canada, in Plessville. There's a town in Quebec called Plessville. Isn't that cute?
That is cute.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nicely done.
Yeah. Let me ask you the same.
Okay.
So you can probably be speedier than me. Sorry, I talk so slow. Okay, best resource or content on the topic today?
Equip Expo. Like, just get to Equip Expo. They're going to have everything you need.
Best advice or the biggest win that you've ever had?
Best advice was probably just, standardizing your equipment. We talked about it a bunch here. I think you were one of the first ones to really like show me the value in that. The biggest win I've ever had as far as this topic goes, I'll say making the conversion from trailers to ramp racks. That
Yes,
changed our business.
absolutely. Remember we met the kid? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. I just called him a kid. He is young though. The man at Equip Expo, like the guy, he just runs a maintenance company, and he had a little outdoor booth showing
they
them
were
off.
they were brand new then. He was like he was back in the far corner of Equip Expo,
out in the parking lot.
Yeah, and that's actually
awesome.
that's where I decided to do it. It just took me like, I don't know, half a year or a year after that to actually make it happen. But that's when I was like, yep, we're doing this. This is sweet. And like we are like downtown Denver a lot. So many of our crews are downtown Denver. The savings just on like the time it takes to find parking and get unloaded and everything, like just that alone was like a game changer. Not to mention all the other benefits of that, not having to train guys to drive a trailer, all those sorts of things. It was a game changer.
Yeah, stop pulling trailers, you crazies. We should work for Ramp Rack. Or somebody. Frig, how do we have no sponsors still?
Right.
Somebody watch this damn thing. Somebody tell the guy at Ramp Rack, or this beer. This is the third time I've had Okami Kasu on this damn podcast. No one's reached out to me from Old Beautiful, nor have I reached out to them.
Right.
So, anyway, speed round. Biggest blunder you've made. What have you screwed up the most?
Oh, biggest blunder would be, I had a good one for this and I don't remember what it was now. Actually, biggest blunder I'll say that I've seen consistently a lot of people make is just being like buying shiny shit that you don't need. Like
Oh yeah.
buying things that are just going to be underutilized. I have I don't want to call him out by name. I don't think he would care because he was very transparent about, but we're not going to do that. But I remember in BTA, I think you were in my group one year, and there was an individual who ran like a very successful company, smart business guy, but like he had got himself into a position where like he was trying to build his whole annual plan around like how he was going to put all his equipment to use. And I'm like, dude,
That's a bit backwards.
sell off some of that equipment and like put the cash to work.
Yeah. Favorite truck?
We do the Ford F-250, also crew cab, with a ramp rack slapped on it and ready to go. All our
Mower.
trucks are F-250s. Right stander, 32-inch. Now the 32-inch stander actually comes with the adjustable height deck, which is a game changer. Yeah.
Nice. Love right, but there's no dealer up here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Trimmers, blowers.
Trimmers, blowers, hedge trimmers, everything we use steel. So we use the BR 600s, I think, for the backpack blowers. We use the FS 131R, I think, for the trimmers, line trimmers. I can't remember hedge trimmer off the top of my head, but it's the standard, I think, 24-inch trimmer, hedge trimmer, all steel for all that stuff. Which
Cool.
makes it nice because even like within that, like much of that equipment shares the same like air filters, for example. So even across different equipment types.
You ever cut yourself with a hedge trimmer?
Yep, it is. It's not a
In the
cut
leg?
so much as it. Yep, it's like a pinch, right? It's like
Oh, son of a, that hurts.
the worst blood blister.
Blood blister? What are you cutting with safety scissors? You get a blood blister from it.
If it grabs you right, it just pinches real bad, and then it gives it. Maybe I just have tougher skin than you.
No, it just means your maintenance program's not in order. You're not sharpening your freaking hedge trimmers if it's giving you a little pinch there, buddy. Snow equipment.
By far favorite piece of snow. I put this question in here specifically so I could give Ventrac SSV a shout out. Like it is, you introduced me to it also at GIE or Equip Expo. That was the first time I had ever seen anything from Ventrac. I wasn't familiar with it. It's not a super popular brand where I'm at anyways in Colorado. You don't see a lot of guys with it, although much more now. But I remember you showing me it and you spoke very highly of them, and we gave it a shot. And the SSV, we can send one dude out with an SSV, and we found that it does in efficiency, it's about 3.25 to 3.75 guys. Like that's what it comes out to, because
and it's going to be 4 because you can't even get 3.75.
Yeah. But the big thing is like you got to get it set up right. I highly recommend either the drop spreader or the liquid ice melt. Like either way, whichever you prefer, liquids or granular. But having the ice melt package on it, because then you're literally dropping your ice mitigation materials as you're clearing, and just that alone cuts down on so much time. I also like the SSV because it's nice and narrow. We do a lot of downtown properties where it's fairly tight, so it can get just about anywhere. And it has all the different attachments. We only currently run the plow and the broom. We don't have one of the blowers. The blowers are sweet, but we just don't. We'd use it like maybe once every 2 years. We just don't get a lot of very deep snows.
Expensive. Damn, those so expensive.
Yeah.
They're like price of a truck.
They
Anyway.
are. They're very expensive. Although that is a piece of equipment that I have bought used multiple times. One of which was from you. Made the drive all the way to Canada with Jonathan. That was a very fun experience, except for it was negative 44 degrees when we got there, which is a cold I've never experienced until that moment.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Very good. What do you rate your beer today?
This one's really good. I will say I think I said the same thing about one of the last ones I rated, but this is a very good beer. I recommend trying it. I wouldn't be able to drink more than one of these in a sitting. It's first of all, it's a pretty big hefty can there, but it is pretty sweet and robust. It's also like I don't know, probably 12% beer or something. So I'll give it a good out of 10. Good
All right.
plus out of 10.
You're good. I've got pretty much my favorite beer in my hand right now, the Okami Kasu. As mentioned, Japanese ale, but it's made in the least Japanese place possibly, which is Calgary, Alberta. And I would rate it a 9.5 out of 10. Simple scale. Everybody knows it. Let me double check. Yep. Confirmed.
Pretty sure that is the exact same beer that you rated the last podcast.
Well, now that was a different scale that I used. So.
It was.
And so now you can figure out where the scales match up. I'm going to have to look back and see what the scale was that I used last time.
Yeah.
But it was like an A out of 4 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. I think that covers it. Anything else to add on your side?
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of topics in here. This one was actually it took us a bit of time to prepare for. It may not have seemed that way, but it did. There's like 5 different sidecar kind of things that we have ideas on. And certainly you asking us would help us prioritize them. Otherwise you're just going to get what you get. But we would want to go deeper into, they call them CMMS systems apparently, but maintenance management systems like MTC was mentioned. And, I would actually show just how to set these things up. Just give like a step-by-step process of how to set it up and implement it in your company, how to, if you don't have unit numbers on all your equipment, trucks and so on, how to think through that and what naming convention to give them. Another good one would be discussion around, enclosed trailers, open trailers, or using ramp racks, or basically not using trailers.
That'll be a short one.
Yeah,
it'll just air. We'll go ramp rack.
We'll just yell at you. If you want us to yell at you for 20 minutes, vote that up. How to really get the hourly or the per kilometer cost of equipment to really assess, how much something actually costs besides just the purchase price. Deciding between leasing, financing, and purchasing. Those are ones I would invite, a CA on for.
Yeah.
And then managing shop inventory. That's harder than you'd think, like making decisions on what to keep in inventory and how much inventory costs to hold. And we could talk for a while about that. So, and those sidecars again are like step by step. Here's how you implement these things into your business. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, definitely tune in next Tuesday. We'll cover we'll have one sidecar released in relation to this topic. Generally, that's how we're going to do it. We'll do the full length on Friday, and then the following Tuesday, we'll do an associated sidecar. As Brandon mentioned, this one will have a bunch of sidecars that get released at some point, but for sure, next Tuesday, tune in and see what we're covering. And please comment and share. Give us a comment. Let us know which sidecars you'd like to hear, what other topics, full-length topics you'd like to hear, what beer you were drinking during the episode, and just generally let us know how you're doing. Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Beer Garden. Stay safe out there. Happy holidays and cheers.